if you're using 3 milliliters at once. I would highly advise, especially if you're like in a glute, using like What's up guys, Derek, moreplaysmoredates.com. Today we're going to be talking about how to prevent lumping during injections. So a lot of you guys are on TRT, or perhaps you may even be delving into the deep end of dark, pharmacology and fucking performance enhancement. So relevant for the, whoever you are, this is going to be a relevant post that I feel like should be addressed because it's a very simple trick that I don't really hear about often, and it's just like a really easy way to avoid completely wiping out a shot spot once a week. Like sometimes people, especially in performance enhancement, you'll be using volumes of 1, 2, perhaps even 3 cc's at once, depending on what your goals are and how intense of a protocol you're following. If you're deep in contest prep, or you're a massive bodybuilder, massive powerlifter, whatever, eventually your volume may increase on a weekly basis from just your TRT of, like 0.7 to 1 milliliter per week, all the way up to, perhaps even doing like 2 to 3 cc's every other day or something like that. Some guys even more. So obviously the depth and rotating spots becomes very important once you get to, first of all, rule of thumb, if you're going to be doing sub-Q or shallow IM, and by IM I mean intramuscular shots for TRT, just be aware that, first of all, if you're doing shallow IM, personally, I prefer the 1/2 inch insulin pins over top of the smaller ones, just because, you're sort of like, depending on how fat you are, you're sort of treading the line potentially between like, like a deep sub-Q and like a really shallow IM. And at the end of the day, for the volume you'd be doing for a TRT, if it's like point whatever per week, split into however frequent you want to do it for, potentially more stable blood serum concentrations, the likelihood that your volume will exceed an amount that's going to be problematic in a lumping context is very low to begin with. I would still advise, if you're doing shallow IM, use the 1/2 inch insulin pins instead of the shorter ones. The more body fat is going to depend on essentially what your strategy is. But at the end of the day, it's honestly pretty idiot proof to pin, low volume TRT with insulin pins. But anyways, as far as lumping for like performance enhancement, the rule of thumb I would say is, if you're pinning more than 1/2 milliliter at once, don't use an insulin pin. Don't try and go like, some people might be able to get away with it. And like, frankly, personally, if I do like a glutathione shot, I'll use like a whole milliliter with a 1/2 inch insulin pin and just like bury it. And that's fine for me. And, but still, just a general rule of thumb to give yourself the highest likelihood of not encountering an issue with like a knot or like a lump. I would advise going less than 1/2 milliliter on each administration at most. So that means if you're doing like, over 3 milliliters a week of hormones plus whatever else, I would say disqualify yourself from it being a viable choice to use the slim pins. With that being said, like I said, I do the glutathione myself with a very shallow IM, and I use like a whole milliliter, so it doesn't mean it doesn't work. But I mean, just a general rule of thumb, just be wary of that. Your lumping risk goes through the roof once you start going over like 1/2 milliliter per shot. So obviously depth is important, first of all. If you're using 3 milliliters at once, I would highly advise, especially if you're like in a glute, using like 1.5 inches instead of 1 inch, thinking you're going to get deep enough with 3 cc's with a 1 inch in your regular glute, not your ventral glute, is like, just be sure that you're getting it deep enough if you're going high volume. And then on top of that, one thing that I think is very helpful that a lot of people don't really think of is, so obviously like massaging makes sense, but something that a lot of people don't do that I feel like helps a lot, and I've noticed myself in the past, is, and this can be annoying because it's more time consuming, but it's like you do the pin and then you go in the shower and you basically just blast very warm water or hot water on the shot location, and then you massage. And basically it really helps absorption. Like when it's like right post administration, if you try and do this like several hours after, it's not as effective in my opinion. At least it's not scientifically founded. It's just in practical application, in my experience, anecdotally, this works very well to avoid knotting for shallow shots, especially or low or high volume shots that may otherwise lump even if you're deep enough. So also don't pin too fast. Some people will literally like shoot like 1 milliliter in like 5 to 10 seconds, which to me is way too quick. Like make sure you are, I'm not saying like, you know, 0.1 every like 10 seconds or anything like that, but don't just like slam the thing in because that's going to cause a giant lump too. So, but in the shower, you do your shot, you go in the shower quick, you blast some warm water on it and you massage it in. That helps disperse it a lot, that I found, and helps really promote absorption and prevent that lump that's going to occur. Because so many times you'll do a pin, everything seems fine, you're like, oh, there's no lump, and then 24 hours later, all of a sudden there's a giant lump. So basically you're getting out in front of the lump and being proactive about it and massaging it in. I find it helps a lot, and hopefully that's a useful tip for you guys, especially if your high volume is going in the shower, putting some hot water on it and just massaging it in for, you know, 5 minutes. And to me, that makes a big difference in terms of, like, if you do a lot of high volume shots too throughout the week, if you get a lump, you've pretty much eliminated that shot location for like 7 days. So if you need, or more potentially, like a week and a half in some people with really high volume, maybe even more, you never know what's going to happen. So if you want to avoid having to rotate to, you know, like suboptimal sites because of your lack of, you know, like proactive efforts to prevent lumping, I would highly advise you deploy this tip if you are a high volume guy. So anyways, take from that what you will. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe, check out my blog, moreplates.com. Follow me on Instagram at moreplates_more_dates, Facebook, Snapchat, BitChute, Twitter, TikTok, Apple Podcasts. If you want to support the channel, check out anything I'm associated with in the video description below. My TRT clinic, I highly recommend you reach out to them if you are seeking TRT. It's all telemedicine, Skype, FaceTime, Zoom, so it's very convenient from the comfort of your own home. If your situation medically warrants, you know, like hormonal intervention, then you can talk to the doctor, get your prescription online or over the phone, I should say, and then it's all very convenient and shipped right to your door. So if you want to save $50 off your first treatment, if you are a candidate, then you can use the coupon code MPMD50. Anything else I'm associated with, Gorilla Mind Nootropics, perfect for productivity, focus, mental clarity, creativity, pretty much anything work related. I highly recommend you check those out. They are the best nootropic formulas on the market, bar none, as well as my pre-workout formulas. I'm pretty transparent about the formulas being top-notch in the industry. Just compare the label of mine to whatever you're currently using, and I think it becomes pretty obvious why I pump them so hard. Because if there was an industry standard, I feel like I'm, you know, right at the top of it, at least in my personal opinion. So at the end of the day though, pre-workouts, they're not like necessary for gaining muscle or anything like that, but if it helps you get a better mind-muscle connection, or just the motivation to get in there and get your work done and be productive while you're there, then they're worth it in my opinion. And that's, you know, basically what I use them for personally. And then anything else I'm associated with, video description below. Thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon.